Thanks, Richard, and thanks everybody for coming to our presentation today. Can you hear us all right? Can you hear me? Great. So we're excited to be here and talk about how we went from a couple of guys in a garage with really no experience, no money, just ambition, and a lot of experience playing World of Warcraft and EverQuest, and how we translated that into that garage into 65 people on a beach as our extended family, with just a company and a culture that we're really proud of. One of the things that we do like to brag about, and hopefully the string doesn't ever end, is that in our 4 and a half years, we've never had a single person leave our company for another job, which I've never even heard of that happening before. So we think we got something really special going on. But to tell the story of how we began and what it really took to get us started, that's Rob, that's our CEO and founder.
All right. Rob, so I'm going to give a little bit of the backstory of our company and kind of how we started. I'm assuming that some of you or a chunk of you are indies, and that's why you're here to kind of learn from our mistakes. Along those lines, we're going to be pretty quick today, and we're going to open up time for Q&A at the end because we could tell you, what we went through, but I think it's usually a lot more valuable to hear your questions and answer those directly. So you'll notice that we're pretty open and transparent with things. CEO started the company in May of 2009. It's interesting, I like to tell the story that one of our first big decisions was our first big mistake. And we decided that we had played a lot of MMOs, that we could make a better MMO, which in 2009, that was a horrible idea. It's actually a lot more viable nowadays with things like Unity. But we started making a browser-based MMO. We worked on that for about 9 months and realized that there was no way in hell that game was ever getting made. And especially with no experience, no funding. But what we did during those 9 months was critical to our growth, is that we went to a lot of different conferences like Casual Connect, GDC, and we learned a lot about the industry. And we were able to learn a lot in terms of skill set also. During that time, we started making the browser-based MMO in Flash. None of us knew Flash. So we had to learn it to make the game. And we worked really hard. So one of the most important points is just hustle. It takes a lot of hard work to get this done. There's also a lot of luck involved, and a lot of strategic planning, but a lot of it is just really hard work. There's a quote that I really like from Michael Jordan. It says, some people want it to happen, some people wish it would happen, others make it happen. At the end of the day, that's just really what drove us, was we needed to make it happen. It was through sheer force of will, we were gonna make this work. Nothing was gonna stop us, because there were hurdles. Starting making a browser-based MMO was a huge hurdle. It was a horrible idea. It's about, like I said, 9 months in, we decided to pivot and work on a Facebook game. At that point, when we started that, notifications were still around. Everyone was telling us, just put something on Facebook, get 1 million users in like the first month, everything will be great. We're like, oh, that sounds awesome. And a month before we launched the game, Facebook turned off notifications. We're like, well, we're screwed. That's awesome. But we just were not going to be stopped. So, next slide. So what we had to do at that point was find a different way to make it work. So the first thing that we did was what we call like the forum crusades. Luckily, again, another little piece of luck, Zynga shut down a somewhat similar game called Dragon Wars within like a week of our game launching. And so they had a lot of players that liked dragons and didn't like that their game was shut down. So we went actually onto the Dragon Wars forums and started talking to players. Say, hey, we have this game called Dawn of the Dragons. It's like Dragon Wars, but better, and it's still running, so you should come check it out. That was like our pitch. But it worked. We had a lot of players that came over, and more than anything, they liked dragons, but they liked that us as the developers of the game were talking to them. That we spent a lot of time playing games like World of Warcraft, and if you've played that, when you see a blue post, when you see someone from Blizzard post on the forums, it's just like the gods have come down and spoken to you, and it's amazing. So we wanted to have a really tight relationship with our community. So that really endeared us to them, which was critical to what we were doing. We took that one step further about a year after launch with what we call player councils. It started almost just as a way to stop the craziness. We had some different guilds that were fighting and causing problems on the forums, and it was just driving everyone crazy. So we took a handful of people that were in these different guilds and represented different viewpoints, and we flew them out to our office for a weekend. And we had the team come in, work the weekend, and we just sat everybody down, at a big conference table, and we just talked about stuff. And it was immensely valuable. It was somewhat expensive. At this point, councils have gotten extremely expensive, but that one wasn't too bad. And it was amazing the way that it changed the community, and it changed us as developers. We were already very, very involved on our forums. At this point, I think I have 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 posts on our different forums. We have tens of thousands between our different teams. But we were able to really get to the core, and as we like to talk about, what's the intent? The intent of what was going on within our community. That was just very, very critical. The converse side of that is that my forum signature has said for years now, saving you from yourself since 2009. That's to our community, because they have lots of ideas that they think are great, but that would ruin the game. So it's walking that fine line. The other important thing, as I kind of talked about a little bit before, was industry events. This is something that even today, sometimes we struggle with, because we've gone to a ton of industry events, we've seen a lot of talks, we've given a lot of talks, we've met almost everybody in the industry, it feels like, and to justify flying out to Amsterdam for at this point it was about a week, which was a little bit easier to justify because that was fun, but we struggled to find where are we going to get the value, and every time we've made that decision, we're like, let's just trust the system, something will come up. It always works out. There was actually, for me personally, everybody got something different out of yesterday. We were only one day in. There was a great talk by Michael from Game Duel about company culture, and it just spoke to so many things that are important to me. So industry events, even after you feel that you've kind of figured things out, which is never actually true, you can actually get a lot of value out of those things. And then the last thing that was important to us early on that we used was every dollar has a name. We were bootstrapped, had no outside funding at all. It was literally money out of our pockets, so that was really tough to spend that money to do different things. So we really had the mantra of every dollar had a name. So when it come down to buying a new chair for the office, or spending for a trip or wherever it might be, that we like, how many users would that buy? And how would we spend that money on user acquisition, and how many players would we be able to get with that and grow the business? So we really had a long-term view of all of that. So from there.
So quickly, I'm Braden. I'm the COO. I'm quote-unquote the meddler, and I'm also the pinball champion, which is important for me to say to you guys in front of my competitive colleagues here. And I'm the meddler. I'll explain that quickly, because I have the best job in the world. I really do. I get to run a business, I get to drive strategy, I get to drive revenue, but when the feeling comes to me, I get to go pester Rob and his design team and say, why don't we do this? This was cool in EverQuest 15 years ago, and then I get to leave the room and have no responsibility whatsoever to make it happen. So it's a great job. I love what I do. To carry on Rob's point about every dollar has a name, early on, we didn't have a lot of money for UA, and it's really probably more accurate to say we had no money for UA, so we had to be really careful with how we would grow the business and how we would try and get users. 3.5 years ago, 100% on Facebook. That's what we were really relying on, and so we made a strategic choice to diversify, and we called it platform proliferation, and that was our big mantra for 1.5 years. So we were able to get really good partnerships with Congregate and Armor Games, Plinga here in Europe, and really take our business to the next level. And so I was going to speak to some of the lessons we learned from that effort. Oh yeah, and the quote that I liked is content is king, but distribution is God. Absolutely true. And I was able to speak to some of you guys before this started. You kind of are going down the same path we went, where you kind of have a vision and a dream and you're thinking about starting a company. This is going to hold really true for you, because trying to be discovered at this point with your game in an app store or in a portal is almost impossible at this point. So the lessons that I wanted to impart to you guys, the number one thing, as Rob was alluding to, get involved. You've got to get out there, whether that's going to conferences or meeting people. 2 examples I can share. One is go to the conferences. Three years ago, we were debating, could we afford to go to GDC Austin, back when it was in Austin, in Texas, in the States. And we made the choice to go, and fortunately, we went to a group called the Gaming Insiders Dinner, and I got to sit next to Emily Greer, the founder of Congregate, 15 minutes in, we realized there might be something, that we could work out between our games and their platform. Fast forward 6 months, we're the top grossing developer on that platform, and our company's trajectory has gone like this to this, all because, we were out there, we trusted the system, and we participated. The other thing is talk to people in the industry. It's, we're competitive, but we're also a family. I think some of the best advice that I've gotten and we've gotten is actually from Kabam and Kixeye, who are generally competitors of ours when we're trying to get users or get games to market. But they've given us really good direction, and so hopefully we can impart some of our lessons on to you guys as well. And the other bullet, differentiate. One of the things that we do well is that we are an early adopter of anything a platform wants to try, because we want to be a great partner. That's part of the process. It's, we're important to our partners because we've been fortunate to make money, but a lot of companies make a lot of money for these partners. I think we go the extra mile where we will test out new APIs, we'll test out new guild features, whatever it is. We want to be the guys that do that. So that's a good way to just, create value between you and these platforms. We're also a good resource if in the rare event that something goes wrong, they will call us and they'll want to know, how can we troubleshoot this? David will get a call at 2 in the morning, something's not working, can you help us troubleshoot? So that's a valuable lesson too. Be available. The last one, choose your partners carefully. When you're early on and you don't have any traction, it's hard to do. You've just got to get discovered. But once you get over that initial hump, it becomes really important to work with people that you want to spend time with every day. Are these people that you would want to spend time with? Would you hire them? Would you put them in your own building? Because what they're going to do is they're going to affect your culture. And if you take anything else from our talk, besides the perseverance and the effort, it's going to be company culture that David's going to talk about as the number one lesson we can impart to you.
Cool. Good morning. I would like to dispute the pinball champion statement made earlier, but we can talk about that later. If you have questions, let me know. I'm David Lease. I'm the CTO at Fifth Planet Games. I'm going to talk to you a little bit regarding hiring and mentoring and how that's really kind of shaped what Fifth Planet Games is today and the path that we kind of took to get there. One of the most interesting and unique distinctions a company can make is which skills and attributes drive decision-making when it comes to hiring and promotions. In our opinion, it's a key factor from taking that business, the summary of this entire talk is taking that business to that next level. That's really comes down to a key factor. Really determining and defining which skills are of value to the company. It's going to shape the company culture and the company outlook as a whole. By no means am I saying that you should only hire, type X personalities. But if your employees share a commonality when it comes to decision-making and reasoning, it's not only going to help the development process and just the way they approach problems, but it's also going to give them a common ground amongst each other, as well as the way they value those in others, those values in others. And I'd love to tell you up front that Fifth Planet Games knew what those attributes were for us from day one, and we jumped into it full force. But the reality is that, as with many things, this is something kind of we learned over time. Simply put, early on, we began to realize that many of our people kind of shared a common threads in thinking and motivation, and by identifying these, we were able to utilize that knowledge to our advantage moving forward. Slide for me. I'd like to share a quote, maybe known to some of you, but bears repeating, I believe. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect wood, don't assign them tasks or work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. Now, I realize that may come across as slightly cheesy or romanticized, considering we're talking about making games, but this is an absolute reality in what we do every day. As a leadership group, if nothing else, we are extremely passionate about what we do. Finding, hiring, and promoting individuals with that same passion really has allowed us to get to a level that was unimaginable when we started out. Certain skills, however crucial to the creation of a game or even just a piece of software, are often sought out with a higher regard than passion, but the reality is that those skills can be taught, and you cannot teach someone to be passionate about what they do. This passion goes, far beyond a particular product or game or even the gaming industry in general, but rather in the creation of those games and the process that lies therein, a true passion for that. From the tech side, I can't demand from my people that they be innovative, original, and thorough in the code they write every day. Demanding those types of results does not work. Rather, as a byproduct of the true love for what they do, my people are by nature innovative, thorough, and original. Those results don't exist because we sought out innovative people, but rather because we sought out the passionate ones and got those results that way. The second attribute that we found particularly attractive is actually, in my opinion, very undervalued in the industry in general, especially on the tech side. When we started out, we heard a lot of people tell us things like, oh, what you really need is an expert in C# or someone very familiar with Java. Those statements are not totally untrue, obviously. Experience with a specific technology is very attractive when speed to market is a factor, and let's be honest, that's always a factor. But that should not be the number one item on your list, at least it wasn't for us. Anyone who's worth their weight in tech anything will tell you that in tech, the one thing that will never change is the absolute abundance of change. If we can agree on that fact, then any individual that's basing their entire professional worth on one specific technology or one specific language is months or sometimes weeks away from being totally without professional worth. Go ahead, slide for me. What we found is that if you can identify the individuals that, opposed to having a skill set tied to a specific language, instead have a proficiency with learning and a true love for understanding the work they do, in the long run, you're left with a better employee, a better, well-rounded employee, and someone that has automatic buy-in to what you are trying to do as a company every day. It goes without saying that the ramp-up for an employee such as this is considerable, but for us, we found that the long run outweighs the short in that scenario. To assist with this growth, at Fifth Planet Games specifically, we have something called the Satellite Project, which is a project that allows employees to spend a portion of their work time working on a project of passion, of their choosing, obviously. Besides sparking new ideas and methods for the company in general, this program also allows individuals to grow into whatever potential they're allowed with their personality at an accelerated rate. And what we're left with are extremely capable people, employees in general, of doing the work they're doing every day, but also of preparing and allowing them to adjust for whatever's coming tomorrow. And that portion of the skill set goes far beyond tech. That's an advantage across the board, design, production, etc. The value we've put into these couple of skills has really paid off for us. I wouldn't be so bold as to say everybody should follow our model and do exactly what we've done. But what we have now is an outstanding group of passionate, self-driven individuals that we have the great privilege of working with every day. And I can't imagine a scenario where that's a bad thing.
Cool. So to sum up, the culture, the effort, and the tenacity, and then trying to scale that are sort of the three things that we impart to you guys. The other thing that I'm just going to quickly do is, I love to say this, is that we're an indie studio, which I think it means we can do whatever we want. So if anyone has questions, Richard's going to field it, but we're going to give out prizes. We're going to give away a car today. So, no?
No.
We're going to give out some swag. We're going to give out some swag today. All right.
We'll be really quick because we kind of ran out
Cool.
of time. Sorry.
Thanks, guys. We've got time for a couple of quick questions from the floor. So if you've got a question, raise your hand.
You talk about these ideas like give part of your employee time to work on their own things, and we've heard that as well from places like Google. They do that. But how do you get to the point where you can just be magnanimous enough to be able to let employees do what they want? I mean, a lot of indie studios or one-man, two-man bands don't have that luxury.
So, that was something that absolutely right. We borrowed that from some philosophies from other companies. The reality is there will never be a time that is great and perfect for that. But I can speak to the advantages and the growth that we've gained from that project, allowing people to not only just features in game, but technologies that we would have never considered using before, that some of our people have taken it upon themselves to figure out and learn. Obviously, every minute counts. Every second of production counts, especially when you're talking about programming and whatnot. But the gains that we've gotten from some of those projects, totally changed the path that we might have taken as a company. So the short answer, that's a complicated answer to a simple question. But
I'll just say really quick, at a high level, we invest heavily in personal growth, and that's a really easy and fun way to do it because people get to pick what's important to them. Cool.
Any other questions?
Hi, just a quick question from the beginning. How did you handle the tax question, especially in other countries?
The text,
Tax, as in
like localization?
yeah, globalization. And for instance, if I would like to publish on Google Play, I have to handle something called an ITIM, which is basically the tax that you have to pay in the US.
Tax.
Oh, tax question.
Yes.
Oh.
So, yeah, I handle that, yeah. Taxes, should we pay those? No, so, it's still, I mean, even to this day, there's no specifically clear rule on how to follow that, but for all the partners that we work with, they are typically the merchant of record, so the taxes flow through them, and then we just record taxes like any business would. We're not really concerned with like a VAT or anything in Europe. If we do that, that's going through one of our partners that's taking that, and then we're taking our cut of that.
So one thing I can add to that too is one of the best decisions we made at the beginning was we hired a really good lawyer and a really good CPA. I mean, and honestly, that has served us so well. They've been expensive, especially when we didn't have, really good revenue. But the advice that they gave and the serious pitfalls they helped us avoid were significant.
Okay, cool.
Cool, thanks.
Great. Just the last question now, I think. Still.
Okay, sorry, this circles back to the satellite project. So the things that they work on, do they have to be somehow beneficial to the company, or could they say, well, I want to learn how to play the guitar?
The rules are, as they stand, that it has to be something somewhat completable in 45 days. We have something every 45 days around there called the launch night for the satellite project. Very clever, I know. We get together and we kind of nerd out and talk about what we did. It started off as a tech-only thing, and I really wanted, the devs that work for me really spend a lot of time, with their head down, grinding out code, and I wanted to give them an opportunity to work on things that they found interesting or fun or whatever. But it's really spread from there into, we have designers that are designing board games. We've had people do that. We've yet to have somebody learn how to play the guitar, but we've had people do all sorts of different things. I imagine there will be a line maybe drawn at some point, in terms of, but a lot of it, most of it is not used for the general benefit of the company. We're not publishing those things, but rather it's an exercise in allowing them to spread their creative wings, and as well as, hopefully getting something out of it for us.
It seems like I have something to add for every single thing that's brought up, but basically at a high level though, it whatever contributes positively to the company in some way. So there's one example of, we had one of our female engineers, she actually made like an LED sword that was from game Borderlands, Zero Sword, and it's like, that's not something we're ever gonna use in game, but it's something that's just awesome. It sits around the office now, we show it off when we give tours, so it contributed some way positively to the company.
Yep, and then just to wrap that up, one thing that I would add about satellite and launch night is that it's creativity, but the outcome of that and the value of that is our next game is actually, it started in this satellite project. So we're taking our next game to market in the next few months, and it is a direct result of allowing this creativity and freedom. Thanks.
Great. Guys, let's hear it up for Rob, Braden, and Dave from Fifth Planet. Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.